Hi there. I'm Smita Murthy, managing partner at Opencliff Partners. We're a product advisory and consulting firm. As a woman who spent over 25 years in tech, product, and leadership in corporate roles, I have crossed paths with inspiring women who walk the talk, have an abundance mindset, and have helped shape my career journey. My hope is through my actions while in corporate roles and now in this chapter of my professional life, that I give back and pay it forward. There's plenty of research that shows that women don't have enough women role models to look up to learn from, and to emulate. And very few women leaders who break the glass ceiling, be it in corporate, entrepreneurial, or other arenas, actually support other women in terms of being a champion, being a sponsor, being an advocate to other women. And worse, see them as competition. The inspiration for this podcast series is to showcase women in tech, product, and leadership who inspire, who actually help, and are positive influences to those who have the good fortune to be in their orbits, lifting as they climb. Today, I'm super excited to host Dr. Sonja Tarrago. Sonja is a physician leader in health tech. As a board-certified pediatrician with over 18 years of experience and now leading physician strategy at Dexcare, she brings a real-world clinical lens to developing tech solutions that make care better for both doctors and patients. She's also a wellness advocate for clinicians. She's passionate about making wellness a priority in healthcare, believing that when technology supports, not stresses, clinicians, everyone benefits. And of course, she's also a connector of strategy and value with a background in patient care, health tech, and community advocacy. She's focused on building innovations that truly work for patients, providers, and the systems that support them. I can't wait for this conversation. Sonja, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And we were, just for the audience, just a little backdrop. Sonja and I were introduced through a mutual friend who is also a medical doctor and happened to be an ex-colleague of mine from a previous job. And then Sonja and I realized she was literally practicing being a pediatrician in the town next to where my kids were born. So it is indeed a small world, as they say. So happy to have you here, Sonja. And, I can't wait to dive right into the questions. Shall we go?
Yes, please.
All right. So we all have people we look up to who inspire and shape our journeys. Tell me about a role model or role models that has inspired you or your career journey, and why.
Thanks for starting with this question. I love it. The first person who comes to mind is my mother. So my mother and her example have really crafted the way that I have lived my life. So my mom was raised on a farm in Pennsylvania, and she taught my brother and I the value of hard work, figuring out what it was that you want to do and really striving to do it. So she was my inspiration to set my goals high on becoming a physician. And she was always an example of you can do whatever you set your mind to. She was an art teacher and she was a woodworker. And she signed up for a class every Tuesday night, a woodworking class. And she was the only woman in that class. It was all the men and her. And so early on, I learned from her, I can do whatever I want. Other things that I learned from her, the value of home-cooked meals.
Yes.
Whenever she could, we all sat around the dinner table and ate together. And I have tried to continue that in one way or the other with my family along the way.
Awesome.
And, I think through that was just really the importance of family. So communication, spending time together, prioritizing. Our careers are so important, but I've always positioned my career after my family.
That's fantastic. And I love that it's so real. And I'm actually very heartened all my guests so far have talked about their moms and grandmoms as role models. I think that's fantastic, because our leadership journeys are, whether we realize it or not, is crafted so much in our early childhood. And I didn't realize this until like I was at a leadership offsite, and they were like, oh, like, not just the Myers-Briggs test, like your personality, but more like what has inspired your leadership style. And I'm like, I don't know. And it was more dig deep, like what, think about early childhood. And it became so apparent even to me, like it was my mom, my grandmother, just very strong female role models, and actually amazing men also in the family to support.
Yeah.
Right, not just the women. So that's fantastic. I love it.
Absolutely. And, I will say that I have learned so much from that I've tried to bring that into my family as well, and tried to be that example for my children. And during my career, when I was taking care of kids in their families, being an example to them as well. Like, here's what I prioritize. Here's how I've navigated my life, hoping that others could learn from my story as well.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, just because you made me think of our pediatrician when my kids were still pediatrician age. Our pediatrician was a woman, and she was amazing. And she basically, the kids felt like she was like grandma. And they were so comfortable. They refused to go to anybody else till they had turned 18, and then they're like, yeah, well, I'd like a male doctor at this point. So it was very interesting. Like, it's I think it's important. I have two boys, so for them to also see strong females in every role possible around them, so that there is no gender association with roles. So I think that's really wonderful. Glad that you brought that into your family as well. All right. So, what are some key leadership lessons you live by, that you've learned over time, that you've honed over time? What are some of those leadership lessons?
I will say that I've learned a ton over time. And so maybe I'll talk about the things that I'm currently focusing on, like really trying to lean into. I think first and foremost is empathy and listening, really actively listening and being curious. I think many of us, as we're engaged in conversations with others, are often so quick to sort of formulate what our response is that we're not actually being present and listening to what the person is saying. So that is one of the leadership principles that I'm not only trying to improve on, but trying to share with others around me. So how do you actively listen? How do you listen in a way that's empathetic so you can understand the feelings and perspectives of others, so that you can really lean in and have authentic conversations?
Yeah. No, that I love that.
I think the other part of that for me is awareness. So awareness of how I'm showing up to conversations, right? So many of us have back-to-back meetings and we're often late to the next meeting. And so trying to be more aware of, like, how am I coming into this meeting? Do I just need to take a second, take a breath so that I can leave whatever just happened behind and move into the next conversation? I learned this technique when I was in practice because, we have 20, 25 patients that we see all day long, and you often leave a very serious situation and then walk into the room of a family with a newborn baby. And so what I learned, someone taught me, is when you stand at the door, that next door, you take 2 deep breaths before you knock and walk in. And so I've tried to learn that, just that awareness of how am I showing up to that next meeting. And then the next, I think, logical part of that is awareness of what's happening around me. How are other people showing up? What are they struggling with? Because that really affects the way that I interact and the impact that I have on them. How am I feeling? How are they feeling? And what are we trying to work towards?
Absolutely. And if you've mastered that over your practice, Sonja, more power to you, because I think it's something that's a great reminder for all of us. how we show up. And
Mhm.
the first point you made about active listening, we all know we're supposed to.
Yeah.
It's so right. It's like we're already like formulating a response to the first
Mhm.
sentence you've said. I'm not waiting for the full conversation to happen before you respond. So I think perhaps maybe that's from our culture of time bound everything.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, we have 30 minutes, so we need to get through a lot in 30 minutes. And you're like,
Mhm.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So, but if we can just kind of pause for a second, and I love that example of you had 25 appointments. One family is rejoicing a newborn
Yeah.
and there's all this cuteness, and one family is dealing with something stressful. You have to switch context switch between the two families, and yeah, that definitely takes a different kind of discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that comes to mind that I'm really focused on now is how do we bring wellness into our leadership style?
Yeah.
So I think we all struggle with work-life alignment.
Yep.
And thanks. I'll grab a drink as well.
Please do. Please do.
I think we all struggle with work life. Sometimes people say balance. The term I've heard lately that I like is alignment because
Yeah.
you're making choices about where you're spending your time.
Yep.
Um, so how do I bring that lens in? What boundaries are we
Yep.
creating? What time are we taking for ourselves? Are we prioritizing taking breaks,
Yeah.
eating meals, making sure we're getting exercise in? You
Yeah.
acknowledge your yoga mats. Like, are we getting our yoga practice in?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that is super important. Actually, I'm finding, and it's very interesting. My husband and I talk about this. I think I've gotten to a point when I like that. I'm constantly evaluating that alignment. I
Mhm.
love the alignment. It's
Yeah.
kind of like empty nesting versus bird launching. I like bird launching better than empty nesting because that's a little too close to home right now for
I
me.
love
Uh,
that. Yeah.
so that work life alignment. And I just read our mutual friend had written an article that I was just reading. I caught just a snippet of it. I haven't read the whole thing, but she talked about, um, that alignment being important. Taking time for yourself is so important.
Mhm.
And some of the roles or some of the goals we were chasing at one point may no longer serve us, and therefore to reassess and say, hey, what is it that I need and what brings me alignment is so important. I'm using her words and your words, but the idea is the same,
Yeah.
right? Finding that balance at different points in your life, not just like what served me, I would say, like in my 30s and 40s is not what I want right now, right?
Right.
And having that alignment and balance is super important.
Yeah. And I've really tried to bring that into my career in healthcare technology as well, like helping my colleagues understand that our physicians, our clinicians need to be well in order to take care of patients. So, as we're developing technology solutions, we need to take that into account. We cannot add to their cognitive burden. We cannot disrupt their workflows if we want them to be well so that they can take the best care of their patients. So, it's important that we continue to see this through that lens as well.
Absolutely. And I think when I was at Oracle, at Oracle Health, we called it the human experience. I think that's important to bring into any technology solution we build, because put the human at the center, put the patient at the center, put the
Mhm.
clinician at the center, depending on who you're building your product for. And don't forget the human part of it, I think, like, especially in health tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited because I feel like we're finally starting to move the needle. I think it took us a long time to understand how 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 much our clinicians were struggling. But now that
Yeah.
we're starting to see new solutions that make a difference.
Yeah. That's exciting. All right. So now we're getting into sort of the what I call the meat of the conversation. And this is like truly the motivation for this podcast series, is really to say, what are all the ways you leverage your success to help other women in their careers?
I love this question as well. And I will say that the ways that I do that is because I have been the recipient of this and have learned from others. And so I've tried to create that in my life in the way that I support others, pay it forward, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned role models early on in the conversation. And so that is one place that I've really put a lot of focus. So how can I be a role model within my organization, to my colleagues, within the industry, healthcare technology, and then certainly within my personal life? We talked about, being role models to our family, to our friends, to the children of our friends. So trying to do that in a number of different ways. And in the way that I've decided to focus here is by owning my story and sharing my story. I've had a lot of transitions in my life, and I want to be able to normalize that change and transition is normal, and normalize the path of physicians going from a clinical practice into a non-clinical practice. I never imagined 30 years ago when I graduated from medical school that maybe someday I might be working from home, crafting, helping to contribute to technology solutions instead of doing bedside care. So hoping to own my story and share my story with others as well.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And there's actually, so I want to hopefully quote correctly two different resources that kind of correlate what you're saying. I recently attended a Mel Robbins conversation. I think I may have mentioned that to you in our previous conversation. She said, if I'm not wrong, she has made 23 pivots in her life, right? And for a long time, I was like, why is it that I've worked at so many jobs? I am still of the generation, and I don't know if you relate to this or not, where I felt like, oh my God, all I wanted was to be in one role and kind of retire there.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer normal.
Right.
It's no longer normal. And I think it took me a little while to understand that and to accept that that's the new norm, right? And the pivot can happen in many different ways. I've made a major pivot right now from getting off the corporate treadmill to be in product consulting on my own. And, it is a little bit of reinventing yourself in a different way. I can do product strategy and product vision and roadmaps in my sleep, right? But to be able to, a lot of what you said about the leadership lessons, being present, being to actively listen, is super critical for me in my role right now, because I'm actually trying to help the board members. I'm trying to help CEOs. I'm helping the C-suite in their next decision that they need to make, right? And how I show up affects my business, right? So, and that pivot is normal. And I love the fact that you talked about, after doing bedside care for all these years, making that transition to being in corporate, in your case, is normal. And I'm seeing more and more of that, actually. So I love that. I love that. We all need to own our stories, because each of our journeys is unique.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the same.
Yeah. And owning our stories, sharing our stories. And then the next step of that is mentoring others who are considering those transitions as well. I think I so loved my time in practice where I could bring a medical student in and show them what the life of a general pediatrician was. Like, how do we go to the hospital and take care of newborns and then see, come to the clinic in the afternoon and see patients there? And What does it look like to chart in a paper chart or in the electronic health record? And my hope now in this phase of my career is I can help to mentor those who feel like they don't have any other options in clinical practice and they want to see what other opportunities out there. I want to be a sounding board for other female physicians or trying to figure out what else is out there for them.
Absolutely. And to feel that it's not weird or abnormal, it is quite normal. Lots of people have done it.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of work involved, but it is absolutely normal and you
Correct.
can absolutely navigate it. The other thing that comes to mind when I think about how I'm trying to support other women in their careers is with networking. I mean, you mentioned when we started this podcast, I mean, we were connected through a mutual friend, expanding our network. So I really want to help others do that. So, when someone says, I'm thinking about doing this, if I have a contact who I know is doing that, let's connect those people and let them have a conversation. So not only outside of my organization, but inside my organization, I'm hoping to support women through our employee resource group. So we've just kicked off our women's employee resource group last
Nice.
month.
Yay.
Um, the official title, I love it, is Empower Her. And we kicked off with one of our female executives sharing her story of her career journey in a vulnerable way.
Yeah.
The challenges, the successes, the people who maybe stood in her way, and the people who helped her. And it landed really well with lots of my colleagues, ones who are new to the organization, have been there for a while, males, females, all ages. So I'm super excited about that. I think there's so many opportunities for us to expand and share our networks. And I think that really does a lot to support women in their careers as they're thinking about the future and making transitions.
Absolutely. And I think it's priceless when someone is truly able to open up and be vulnerable in front of a large audience, or if they're being recorded, or any of those where there's a digital and or in person, you're leaving behind something, right? So that's amazing. I love the fact that you have the women's resource group. I love the Empower Her.
Mm-hmm.
And yay, can't wait to hear what you do over there. By the way, I've done a few of these in previous organizations, so I'm happy to share some ideas of what we've done. Like I've done something like a mentoring circle, where I like the circle. The levels don't come into
Mm-hmm.
play. It's a circle, everyone's sharing. I've had a lot of success with that, so I'm happy to share that offline, if you wish.
I appreciate that. I think um, we need to be so thoughtful about these employee resource groups on how we can create a safe space for great conversations where people can be vulnerable and share what they're challenged with, but we can actually make real change. We can, mentor each other. We can approach the organization with changes that we recommend. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, yeah. And I always say, for me, one of my frustrations has been in corporate, there's a lot of mentoring resources
Yeah.
available. Sure, that's important, and all of us can be mentored and all of us can continue to improve. But I think the bigger thing that we need, especially you said there was a female executive that shared her story. It would be fantastic if we can have that person become more an advocate, a sponsor, for other people who she's touching, right? Through her story, through that connection, and then bring them along for the ride, and bring them along as she's climbing. I think that's where the real power lies.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. Sharing stories, being a role model is one thing, but then helping to nudge folks along the way, creating space for their growth is really important. Because it's one thing to know what someone else's story is, but it's another thing to figure out how that might work for you and what is the next thing that you should be focusing on. So you're right, making sure that we're helping to guide and nudge other folks along the way as well.
Yeah, because one size does not fit all.
Yeah.
All of our situations are different. All of our priorities are different. But like, when someone's ready, if you've developed a relationship with that person, if you can lift as you climb,
Mhm.
that's like the best thing that you can do.
I love that.
All right. So when you reached out to others to help you in your career, like we all do, what are some of the best ways others have helped you?
One of a recent conversation comes to mind, and what was most helpful from that conversation was that friend and colleague just asking questions. So, what are you focused on? What are you hoping for? What are you scared about? Because what that does for me, or did for me, is by having to articulate and answer those questions, it becomes more clear to me. I often see sort of my challenges being reflected back. So, it goes back to the listening that we started with, like just asking questions, being curious, and then reflecting back to me what they're hearing. And then along the way, sharing their story. So, what's a similar story where they faced a challenge like that? What are their insights? What did they learn? Um, and who might be a person that they can connect me with, who I could learn their story and how maybe they overcame that challenge. Um, the other thing that's been really valuable is when others share learning opportunities for me, or other organizations that they have found that may help me with the challenges that I'm facing. I will say one are the Bluebird leaders. Someone just recently introduced me to them. It looks like you might be familiar with them as well.
Yep.
Yes.
Through our same mutual friend.
Yes. Yes.
He
So
looks wonderful in hot pink. Mine's not that close.
yes, I'm still looking for mine. But yeah, I think they're focused on empowering women in healthcare and technology and healthcare technology. So that's been a great connection for me. Um, Learning opportunities like courses. I reached out to someone recently and said, I just want to learn more about AI and how I can be speaking to it and thinking about it. And she shared a great link to a Google AI certification. So that's been really helpful when people come across tools or articles that they think might help me, that we share those. Um, Sharing podcasts like yours, right? Like, so
Love
what
it.
other opportunities? Who else is talking about these things? Who else is helping to figure out how to support women in healthcare tech, and what are they saying? Um, I'm loving podcasts as of late. I think it's a great use of time. I will tell you, maybe not professionally, but personally, one of the podcasts that I'm really loving is the New York Times Wirecutter.
Okay.
So if you
I'm
haven't checked that one out, encourage you to check that one out.
okay.
Father's Day is coming. They just came out with a Father's Day gift episode. So yeah, so folks around me seeing things, learning things, and then thinking to share them with me, that's really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And speaking of, like, we anticipated some dogs barking, etc. I'm gonna pause for 1 second, and then I'll resume the recording. Just give me 1 second. All right. This is how women lead, right? We're managing working from home and all of life happening around us. Sometimes it's the dogs, sometimes it's your helpers. And this happened to be my helper. She didn't realize I was recording, and she was standing to my right and saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." I'm like, "Don't be sorry. I just wanted to finish our question." And then that's why I paused, and I'm now resuming. But this is it's our reality now. Working virtually and working from home.
And
Our,
I love that it brings a lens to what we've all been doing all of our lives.
yeah,
Um, you referenced Mel Robbins' book earlier, right? Like, it's control what you can control and
correct.
perhaps release control of those things that you can't. And I think that's so important. And I think it's important for other people to see us doing this too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. All right. I think that is wonderful. So we're now to a couple of interesting, just general questions. Can you please share your favorite life lesson quote and how that's relevant to you in your life?
Yeah, I think I will share a phrase that I often focus and reflect on. So I, like you, I think am a yoga practitioner. I've been practicing yoga for probably 20 years and actually took the leap a year ago to do my 200-hour yoga certification training. So I'm teaching yoga now. But one of the phrases that I often close my yoga classes with comes from loving kindness meditation. Um, so may you be happy, may you be well, may you be safe, and may
Mm.
you be at peace.
Oh, oh my God. Okay, I've never cried on a podcast. So, all right. So when I come to Napa Valley and we do our yoga retreat,
You will
Sonja,
hear me say that.
yeah, we're gonna do that. Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's beautiful.
And I think there's lots of different variations out there, and you can adjust it as the words are meaningful to you. But I've often used, we started with talking about how do we sort of make those transitions and be present in the moment. But simple phrases like that have been so instrumental in for
Yeah,
me just to help calm myself, to bring myself into the moment and be present with the people in front of me.
I love that. I just love that. I love the fact that you invested your time to be a certified yoga instructor. That's amazing. I'm nowhere close to that. I just attend classes and I have some amazing yoga teachers that I look up to. Um, and it's amazing when you just kind of take that little time for yourself on your mat and you're focused on your breath and the movement and not leave everything that happened before you out.
Mhm.
It'll all be there for you when you're finished, right? And that when you're present, that's really the point, right? When you're
Right.
present, you're so vulnerable and all those thoughts come. I actually, the only time I've had tears stream down my face in a, I still call it a workout because vinyasa yoga is a
Right.
workout,
Mhm.
um, is in two yoga classes. When I was in that point in my life when I just needed to hear those words from someone else.
Yeah.
And this yoga instructor I have, she and I have this weird telepathic connection where she'll read a passage from a book that'll be exactly the right thing for me at that moment in time.
It
It's
is an
so
amazing skill when they do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
And
the
I
right thing at the right time.
right.
Mhm.
And I had one yoga instructor in California who my the thing that I'm most afraid of doing is the chakrasana, the wheel, because I feel like I'm going to break my neck or something.
Mhm.
Um, but she said, no, I have faith in you. You will do it today. And I did it. I was like, how? I've never been able to do it. But it's just, I think people are amazing and special, and they bring that energy to making you achieve, which is, I think, full circle on this conversation
Mhm.
about how that how the energy we bring can help others.
Right, right. I mean, it's really it was life-changing for me, some of the new insights, and it is such a great addition to my life. I will say that there are so many times that I'm struggling with something at work, not sure how to approach it or what the next step might be, and if I just take an hour out in my afternoon and do a yoga class, I come back and I have new ideas. Sometimes I think when we're struggling with things, we just keep pushing, keep trying harder. Just
Mhm.
and sometimes we just need to take a step back, like you said,
Yeah.
disconnect, just focus on
Yes.
the yoga, and then things sort of fall into place.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's like it's even just disconnect from whatever was bothering you before.
yeah,
And it's almost like you take yourself a timeout, actually a fun timeout, and
absolutely.
come back.
Little space. Space is
Yes.
good. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Any book recommendations you have for our listeners that have helped you stay true to who you are?
I think top of mind is the Mel Robbins book that we referenced
Let
previously.
them.
So the let them theory.
Yeah.
And I think we've referenced it. So again, a mindset tool that the book is an easy, straightforward read. It's great tools that you can start using right away and has really helped me to shift like, is this in fact something I have control over? And if it's not, let them. Perhaps I can release control over that. And it really brought to light for me that when I try to control things that I have no control over, it is draining
Yes.
emotionally, physically, and we only have one little bucket of energy. And so why not spend that energy on things that I really want to instead of things that I actually have no control over. So I'm hoping to start to see some more energy shifts as I do that work. So that was one book that I'm glad that we brought up. The book that I'm reading right now is The Next Conversation by, I'm just looking at the author's name, Jefferson Fisher. Just started it,
Okay.
love it.
Okay.
It's really how to have direct, more productive conversations. And who doesn't want to do that?
I
Right?
love it.
I think I often struggle to bring my point of view to conversations. I love to listen, digest, and then come back. And so how can I help to make my conversations more direct and more efficient? So just started the book. I'm eager to learn more, but maybe we can talk about that further in the future.
Yes, yes, indeed. And is this a business book,
Mhm.
or is it any conversation between two humans?
I think it can apply in a number of different situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I should make a note of that. I love it. Sonia, I've loved our conversation because we barely touched upon our jobs per
Mhm.
se.
Mhm.
And really, this was a conversation about life and about women kicking butt in the middle
Yeah,
of all of this. Um,
absolutely.
and I love it. I loved the examples you gave, and thank you for sharing some of the pivots that you've been doing and how you deal with the pivots. And I love the fact that we have now another connection, not only about Mel Robbins and our conversation about that, our Pittsburgh connection, and now we have a yoga connection too. So thank you, Michelle, for making the introduction.
Yeah, and thank you to you for sharing this opportunity. I'm so glad to see you, having more conversations about how we support each other and how we support each other in our careers. I think it's such an important topic and, look forward to contributing more.
Fantastic. I've loved this conversation. I hope our audience takes away all those great pieces of advice that Sonia had to share. Sonia, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Likewise.
Thank you.